Next we have Mary Boynton, SMDC nurse.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me. I am here on behalf of the Minnesota Nurses Association, and we represent more than 20,000 registered nurses in the state of Minnesota. I'm here today to speak for our patients and those who are less fortunate than us. Okay. With a single stroke of the pen, Governor Tim Pawlenty vetoed the General Assistance Medical Care program known as GAMC. By eliminating this program, Pawlenty's actions will leave 36,000 of Minnesota's poorest and most vulnerable adults without any health care. GAMC is a lifeline for many of our patients, as we heard from Trixie. The governor's cuts are devastating and will have dire consequences for our patients and the ability of nurses to provide best care that we can. Many recipients on GAMC are veterans, senior citizens, people with mental illness, or those who are homeless. Most GAMC recipients live on less than $203 a month. Without care, these Minnesotans will be at risk of devastating health implications. We know that by eliminating GAMC, more people will wind up in our intensive care units and in our emergency rooms because of massive strokes, because they couldn't take their blood pressure medicines, because of diabetic problems, because they did not have insulin or the ability to do their diabetic testing. They will be in the emergency rooms with respiratory problems because they cannot afford their inhalers for their asthmas. When we do not take care of the poorest among us, it hurts all of us, and it costs us more. Why would we do this? Finally, with the elimination of GAMC, our hospitals have had to make significant changes in our staffing levels. These changes have and will continue to negatively impact our nurses to provide safe, patient, timely care that you and your family would expect from us. So please, Governor Pawlenty, we ask you to stop standing between our nurses and our patients and fully restore GAMC by raising revenues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next we have Jim Gruba from the Human Development Center.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Gruba, Executive Director of the Human Development Center, and it's kind of fitting that we're out here on this cold day because we're talking about the possibility, the likelihood of putting the poorest people out in the cold, literally and figuratively. For those of you who don't know what the Human Development Center does, we do a variety of things. We've got some folks out here that are working every day with homeless folks, helping them get benefits and find housing. We also have psychiatry, therapy, case management, a lot of services that we provide to lots of people. 8,000 people a year we serve in this area. About 300 to 400 are on general assistance, and we were very pleased, as were many people, a few years ago when the legislature and the governor actually increased the benefits so that the benefit set worked and was comparable to what other people on public programs received. So this is a real step backwards. And in terms of numbers, it's hard to put numbers on lives. We know that people with on general assistance tend to have the challenge of poverty and also other issues, and the rate of suicide is something to consider. It's hard to put a value on the human life. We know what it will cost us as an agency, which will make it very difficult for us to do what we do. It'll probably cost us between $300,000 and $500,000 a year if general assistance were to go away. But there's a bigger impact on those individuals that will be homeless, who might commit suicide, who won't get their meds, who won't get their needs met. And there's one other number, and this might be a bit of a cheap shot, but I think it's worth taking. I was thinking, for us as an agency, $300,000 to $500,000, that's about one Wall Street bonus. That's all we need.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And last we have Reverend Kathy Schuyler, pastor of Duluth Congregation Church.
I'm Kathy Schuyler. I'm the pastor of
Duluth Congregational Church. I'm a member of the board of CHUM. The book of Deuteronomy states clearly, if there is among you anyone in need, a member of your community in any of your towns within the land, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward your needy neighbor. Since there will never cease to be some in need on the earth, I therefore command you, open your hand to the poor and needy neighbor in your land. We belong to each other. We are responsible for our neighbors in need. We who gather here today believe we cannot eliminate general assistance medical care from Minnesota this year. We include people in healthcare who are committed to care for all who need medical attention and are deeply concerned about the impact this will have on hospitals' ability to care for the many who will have to make emergency care their only care. We are people of faith who hear God's call to care for our neighbors, who insist that we must care for our most vulnerable citizens. We are Minnesotans from all walks of life who take pride in our state's great tradition to care for all citizens with compassion and courage. We believe Minnesota can do better for all its people. We can do better for those who want to care and for those who need our care. We believe that we can and that we must balance the state budget without leaving thousands of our poorest and most vulnerable citizens without adequate health care. We will continue this fight because we care. Amen.
Thank you, Kathy. Just on a personal note, I have a brother who's been on GAMC for a couple of years, 3 years. He's got 5 chronic conditions, and GAMC is keeping him alive. And there's a ton of people out there that with the same issue. And I would just like to ask Governor Pawlenty, if you had a brother with 5 chronic conditions who needed this health care, would you be cutting it? I think not. So thank you for coming. Thank you for raising your voices. We need you down in St. Paul. If you're interested in taking a bus on the 4th for the opening session, call the CHUM Center and raise your voices and say no to this cut. Thank you.